Um, like I respect the person, but you should be honest.
What,
Yeah.
mummy?
But yeah, so Anakin, we're all individuals. You definitely need to seek God, seek that which is good, that which is holy, that which is pure. Um, what he was doing, that the other guy, he was playing a game. Um,
Bro, no, wait a second. I hate it when your Christians do this. You need to seek God. You need to seek that which is holy. Bro, I'm an atheist. Like, you're basically telling me to seek the Easter Bunny. I hope you understand how it makes no sense. You tell me to seek something that I don't think exists, right? You can understand this, right? I hope. So, yeah.
You're saying that you sound like you're offended, but you're saying that the God worldview is comparable to the Easter Bunny. That's ironic.
Yeah, no, what I'm trying to say is that it makes no sense to sound that phrase out loud, because what I'm trying to say is that for me, it has no meaning. That's all I'm trying to say.
So you do you claim to be an agnostic or an atheist?
Oh, that depends on the definition of God, actually.
So what is the definition of where you come from?
There is no definition of God. Like, different religions have different definitions.
No, but I'm saying if you I just heard you say something about you being an atheist. How is it that you are an atheist?
Yeah, okay. There are two types of atheism, commonly understood as soft and hard atheism. Being the hard atheism, that the belief that God does not exist, and soft atheism, the disbelief in God. I don't care about titles, so because I'm saying that I don't care about titles because a lot of apologists won't accept the concept of soft atheism and say that there is no atheism but hard atheism. In that case, I would only be an atheist if the concept of God had a contradiction. In that case, I would claim to be able to prove that the concept of God has a contradiction. Uh, for example, if God claims to be all powerful, at the same time claims to be a person, which is not all powerful, Jesus, I would say that if God says that, he's saying that he's all powerful and not all powerful at the same time. Therefore, he's not. Uh,
So
he would be impossible to exist. So the Trinity is other example. So basically, Christianity for me, I would be a hard atheist to Christianity, but I don't use the title atheist all the time because there are concepts of God. For example, Iemanjá. So Iemanjá is in Candomblé. She is the Orisha of the seas, the goddess of the seas, and she's the lady who created human beings. From the mud in the deep of the sea. And
so then
from
it's
that
a
definition, wait a second, wait a second. From that definition, I can prove that Iemanjá did not exist. So I'm not a hard atheist, but I don't believe she exists. Therefore, I'm a soft atheist to her. But since I can't prove that, I also would make me an agnostic to Iemanjá. So it depends on the definition of God.
so if we define God, okay, as the Christian worldview God, and we say that He is the one from whom all things are through Him and to Him, and all things consist of Him, and that the Creator of all things, and of there nothing that exist having not been created by Him. If we identify that God, do you believe in that God?
No, I don't believe in it. And if you're talking about Orthodox Christianity, I would have some problems that I would say that there are contradictions. In fact, the Christian God is the only one that I might consider myself a hard atheist to.
Okay, so then, how is it that all things that you know, do you recognize as everything that you know to be as coming from the God that I just defined?
No, no, I don't. That's what I just said.
So how have you determined that those things do not come from God? How did you find that out? How do you know that?
Oh, it's not. You see, it's basically that I don't believe in the statement because the statement didn't convince
Well,
me.
I didn't ask you.
It's the other way around.
I didn't ask you what you.
The burden of truth.
Yeah, yeah, but I didn't ask you whether you believed it. I'm saying how did you come to understand that those things that you see around you do not come from God?
Yeah, because you see, when I call myself, you asked me, do I believe that the stuff around me came from God? I said no. You're asking why right now.
So then,
Basically,
where
because
do they come from?
each stuff came from different place, right? I'm at my computer right now. It came from a Pichal website. But let me answer you first. I need the burden of proof is on whoever says that everything around me came from that God. It's not on me. So I don't need a methodology to prove that the God didn't create all stuff. But in fact, who's claiming that he did, that has to come with the methodology.
Well, I asked you all the things that you know around you. You
Hmm.
said your computer, you know where your computer comes from, but your existence, right? Your life, your
Hmm.
DNA, your biology, the skies, the moon, the stars. If those things do not come from God, where do they come from?
Well, that's not a problem for the question. Like, if you want, I can explain where those stuff came from, but that wouldn't bring any light to if they came from God or not. What you need to analyze if they came from God or not is that whoever is making the claim that they came from God needs to provide some good reason for you to believe that they came from God, and then that good reason has to be analyzed. Even if I explain to you how the evidence shows us where this stuff came from, this wouldn't tell us if the possibility that it came from God is true or false.
Well, you do have to understand that we're saying that we're in the God worldview. We're saying that all of these things have come from God. You
Mhm.
are saying that they did not come from God, but the question is, we're asking you, where do these things come from? And are you saying that there absolutely is no evidence for God?
No, I didn't say that. All I said is that I'm not convinced by God, by the idea of God. This is what I'm trying to
So
say
that, are
from the
you
beginning.
saying that all of those things that you know to be true, uh, we nobody knows where those things came from? They're undeterminate. Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that as well.
So then that means that you do not believe in God, and you're holding down an irrational understanding of yourself and all the
What did I
things that you
say is
believe.
irrational? What statement was irrational that I said?
Well, because you do not know where these things come from, but you also do not reject that
I
there
didn't say
is a
that I
God.
don't know.
Also, so we'll ask you again, where do these things come from if they do not come from God?
Yeah, I'm saying that this doesn't matter for you to know if there is a God or not. Because what I'm saying is that the burden of proof that this stuff came from God is on whoever says that a God exists. They have to prove first that God exists, and then that this God created this stuff. It's not
No,
on me to prove that.
we're debating the worldview. Okay, you know that we are standing in the God worldview. You're
Hmm.
in the not God worldview. You say that you don't know where these things came from. Okay,
I didn't
and
say that.
yet well, you haven't given us an example as to where. You're just saying it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I don't have to. I'm saying it doesn't matter exactly.
The it doesn't matter. It doesn't get you any points. It we can either say, well, you
Yes.
just do not want to answer. So that means
No,
it
no.
doesn't
You
matter.
see, I'm saying
Qualified.
what I'm saying is, me as an atheist. Atheism is just a name for a position that I don't have. It just means that I don't have the position that there is such a thing as a God. And you gave us a definition of God, which is the dude that created stuff. And you're claiming that there is this dude that created stuff. You
But you're
asking
denying
me,
God.
look, asking me asking me where did stuff come from doesn't prove. And by the way, and under this definition, I would be a soft atheist. which is I don't claim that he does not exist, but I don't believe in his existence. So the
What I'm
burden of
trying to
proof in this case would be upon you,
no,
not on me.
what I'm trying to get you to see is that while you say that you do not claim that God does not exist, you also claim that you do not know where all of these, or rather, you cannot explain where these things come from. And
No, I'm
all you
not
say
saying
is,
that.
you wait, wait,
I'm
let me finish, please. And you say that it doesn't matter. I think everybody heard you here say it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it
Saying it
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter, saying it doesn't matter equates to a lack of information in your answer. Whereas we don't have a burden of proof because we're already standing in the God worldview. When you come into our chat and you're asking and we're talking and we're asking you, what
No,
is
you're
it that
asking
you
me
believe?
questions.
Yeah, you what is it that you believe, right? You do not say that God does not exist, but you deny everything that you know around you as being necessary coming from God. So you're implicitly rejecting God regardless. So you're standing in an irrational worldview.
No, why is this right? What I'm saying is, I was never shown any evidence that proves that everything around me came from a being that could be called
Well,
God.
where's the evidence that there
It's
isn't?
just a fact.
Where's the
No, no. What
what
I'm
is
saying is, look. What I'm saying is, this is very simple to understand. I was never presented to a good reason that would make me believe that everything around me came from a being called God. This is not irrationality. This is just presenting a fact that happened to my life. I was never
so you
presented to
don't
such
see evidence. So you don't see evidence for God. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes,
So
exactly.
what's the
I think the
so what's the evidence for not God?
Yeah, again, I'm not. It has to. I'm going to explain again. There are two types of atheism. I'm not saying that God does not exist. That would be a positive claim that would require me defending my position.
So it,
What I'm saying is there is this claim that says that there is a God, and I'm not convinced by it. I don't need to prove to you that I'm not convinced by it.
where's where
Believe me.
you're trying to find neutrality in a heading of atheism. Where is the
No, it's not
neutrality?
neutrality. I'm not convinced by it. I'm telling you right now, I'm not convinced
So
by
if
it.
you're, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what you don't seem to understand. That when you say that it's not necessary that everything that you know around you comes from coming from God, the necessity of God, then you're already rejecting him implicitly. It's an
No,
implicit
no, no.
rejection of God.
Look. No,
It
what you're
is.
saying, you're bringing up the hypothesis. Don't understand this as scientific hypothesis. You're bringing up the possibility. I'm gonna change my words. The possibility that everything around us came from a being called God. You're bringing up this possibility. What I'm telling you is that my position towards that claim is I'm not convinced by that claim. This is my position.
So
It's
if you're
not
not
what you're claiming
convinced,
right now.
so if you're not convinced, do you know it?
If I know the claim, yes, I've
No,
just heard
I'm
the
saying
claim.
that if you're not convinced of the evidence, okay, do you believe in the evidence?
I was never presented any evidence. How would I?
So the evidence,
That's actually the whole
so
point.
the evidence, God worldview, that all things consist from Him, they come from Him, they derive from Him. That evidence from the Christian worldview, from the God worldview, you say you're not convinced, and saying that you're not convinced is saying that you reject that that is evidence for God. In doing so, you reject the
Yeah,
God worldview.
what I'm saying, I'm gonna change my words because evidence can be badly understood. What I'm saying is, I was never presented with a reasonable, with something that would convince me that this worldview is true, that the God worldview is true. Therefore, I was never convinced. If you want to, I can explain to you all the arguments I've ever heard. I don't see how this would be productive because this is not the point. The point is all of the arguments that I've heard defending this position never convinced me. Thus, I don't have this position. You
We
understand me?
keep going around in circles and you keep landing at not being convinced. When you're not convinced of something, and we're talking about, what are we talking about? We're not talking about you're not convinced of chocolate versus strawberry vanilla ice cream. We're talking about about the God worldview of all things that consist around you, if you're not convinced, as in the God worldview, that all things that you know of that surround you, everything around you, consist and from the necessity of God, then that means you are implicitly rejecting the God worldview. It's
Yeah,
simple.
if you define God worldview as the worldview, that's it depends on how you define reject. Because if you claim that reject is the same as not being convinced by something else, I would be rejecting it. That doesn't still put a burden
It's
of
still
proof
an
on me.
it's still an implicit rejection, no matter how you put it.
What do you mean by implicit rejection?
I mean, it's just not an overt rejection. You can implicitly or explicitly say, come to the table and say there's absolutely no God. Or you can say, well, I'm not convinced, or there's not enough evidence, or whatever. In doing so, you're saying, okay, you're implicitly rejecting them because at the same time, what is the evidence of not God? And you say, well, I don't have any
Not God
evidence
doesn't
of
need
not God.
evidence. Not God doesn't
Well,
need evidence.
of course it does. If you
No,
if
it
you say
doesn't.
that there's no God, then where's your evidence of not God?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you checked all the evidence?
Basically, you're distorting my words. That's what you're doing here.
Not at all. I'm
Yeah,
actually following
you are
along.
distorting my words. No, you're distorting my words into trying to make me not say that I'm a soft atheist and try to convince
If you
myself that I'm a
notice,
hard
if you
atheist.
notice, you're the one that has changed your words a few times. You said, "Okay, I can't use evidence this way. I can't use that word this way." I've been using the
Yes,
same
because
language
you've been
over and
trying
over
to.
again.
Yes, because you've been trying to distort my
No,
words
we're
instead
speaking
of being
using
charitable in a simple
normal
discussion.
English language. There's no reason why you
Mhm.
should feel that way. Now, I'm not trying to force you into any pocket or anything. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
get you
you're
to see.
saying no, bro. You're saying that by saying that I'm not convinced of God's existence, I'm saying that I'm saying that God does not
So, are you
exist, or
convinced?
that I have evidence
So,
against His
are you
existence.
convinced?
Sorry,
Are you convinced of the evidence
what evidence?
of everything that you see around you as coming from the mind and the person of God?
Yeah, what evidence are you talking about? That's the position.
I
That's
just
not
said it.
evidence.
I just said
No,
that.
that
Your breath,
you repeated
your
the
breath, your
position. You didn't
existence,
bring the evidence.
your breath, your existence, the universe, the
Yeah,
stars, the
I'm
moon.
asking for the evidence, not the position. You're repeating the position.
That is the evidence.
No,
That's
that's
the
the
evidence we're talking
position.
about. Do you
You,
reject?
that's
Do you
position,
do
not
you accept it?
evidence. That's not
You
a.
see, now you're equivocating because you're having a hard time with saying that you agree with the evidence or don't agree with the evidence. You can't go either left or right.
Yeah, because
You're
you don't
having a
know what
hard time.
evidence is. You don't know what evidence
Evidence
is,
is
and
what
that's.
everybody knows is evidence. Everybody knows what evidence. We're talking
Yeah, can
regular
you
words
define
here.
evidence? Can you define evidence?
No, I don't have a definition with me. I don't have my Webster's with me. But we all
Okay,
know what evidence
evidence.
means.
Okay, let's define evidence this way: a reasonable, a reasonable why you should believe something. Okay,
There you go.
you're
Do you
not
have that?
bringing me.
Do you have that?
Yes, you're not bringing me
Do you have the
a
evidence for
why.
God?
Stop interrupting me. You're not. Yeah, I have the arguments for God, but I don't treat them as evidence because they didn't convince me.
Okay,
I
so
know the arguments.
are you not convinced for the evidence that we spoke about as being coming from God?
Yeah, it depends. Again, it depends on the definition of God. It depends on the evidence that you're talking about.
Well,
What evidence are
we
you talking
already
about?
established the definition. We
Oh,
already
okay. Same
established the
definition
definition.
of God. Which evidence are you talking about? Yes, no of the evidence has convinced me yet.
Well, in the God worldview, the evidence for God is everything we see around us: our breath, our consciousness, DNA, our love,
Yeah,
hate.
that would be a logical problem. I think it's called non sequitur.
No, I didn't
That
ask a
would be a non
question.
sequitur.
I didn't ask a question. I just said, if that being evidence, do you believe that that is evidence for God?
No, and I just said, will I have to keep repeating myself? I said that using that as evidence would be a non sequitur, because it's not the
No,
case that necessarily you'd have to have an
and
argument that
that
it's
that is
necessarily the
listen.
case that stuff are. Stop interrupting. Stop interrupting. If you're gonna say that the stuff around us as evidence for God, you would have to have an argument that the only possibility that the stuff around us came was through God. And unless you have this argument that I'm just describing, what you have right there is a non sequitur, because it would not necessarily be the case that the stuff around us came from God, and that would be a fallacy.
But that's the argument. That's the worldview that we're speaking of. And you know that in the Christian worldview, the God worldview consists of all things coming and deriving from Him. So why are you trying to move away
That's
from the
not an
debate?
argument. That's not
You're
an
trying to
argument.
move away from the debate
I'm not moving away from debate. You're the
because
one
that's
that
what we're
didn't
debating.
even argue. No, you're
That's what we're.
look, look.
And you know that in the God worldview, that is the evidence we're talking about. So I asked you, is do
Can you
you?
please describe the difference between argument and position? Because I don't
But now,
see
are we?
this.
Do we need to take out our Webster's dictionary yet again for regular words?
Yes,
I
because
think
you're
you're
distorting
equivocating.
Oh
words.
boy. Oh
No,
boy. This is gentlemen, I don't want to intrude, but is there a better way to conduct this?
Yeah, if he brings an argument for God, I can say why it doesn't convince me, or if it does convince me, I'm gonna say convinced me, instead
Well,
of him asking tricky questions into
I
making me
think we
sound like a
established.
hard atheist.
I no, we don't need to go any further because I think we established that your belief system is irrational.
Yeah, you think we established that because you don't know what is an argument, you don't know what is a position, you don't know anything about a logical debate. That's the problem.
I think that you recognize what I'm going at, and now you have to you have to deny every segment of the
No, you're
argumentation
saying
in
what
order
the
not to
problem.
give a clear
The thing
answer.
is, you're no, you're trying to trick me from
It's not a
soft
trick. Oh, see
atheism.
that you think it's a trick. It's not a trick. It's just regular conversation.
Stop interrupting me. Stop interrupting me. Okay,
You've been interrupting me, my friend. And if you
you're
continue
trying to.
doing it, I'm going to send you down to the audience.
No, I'm gonna leave
So,
them. Bye.
I mean, I didn't kick you out. I'm just letting you know that you're doing what you're telling me I'm doing. What are you
he
going to
he
do?
left.